Hey guys, this is Crap Hunter, and welcome back to What of Tanks. Woo! Now, today we're going to be looking at the VK3002D, or as I like to call, the Aston Martin. As it originally used to be the DB, but they mucked around with the name, whatever. This is a German Tier 7 medium tank, as you can see here. She is the other choice to the medium tank line, should you wish to go along this line. We go to the vehicle details. Let's go do that now. Developed as a response under the influence of the Soviet T-34. Really? In the initial order for production of 200 vehicles was cancelled, however, for the favour of the Panther, which everyone knows is, in real life, was probably, I don't know, yeah, this famous tank. This is probably one of the more famous tanks of the Second World War. Obviously not as famous as perhaps the Tiger or the T-34 or the Sherman, but most certainly was a damn good tank design and was a damn good medium tank for sure. Definitely a useful asset to Germany. Shame it came out a little bit later than it should have been. But anyway, this is about this tank, the VK, and I'll be honest with you, Germany isn't really good when it... Well, okay, Germany isn't good when it comes to Tier 7 mediums. I mean, the Panther tank has the L100 compensating for something gun, which is a 75mm, which has a ridiculously high pen, or she has, you know, and unfortunately, to be honest with you, this tank here has been a subject of great kind of debate of whether it should be a lower tier or anything, and this tank is the little worse spawn of this thing. So, in a sense, she is the weaker link of the German tank, medium tanks. I would say weakest, but then of course you've got the VK3001D, and perhaps the VK201OD. So, yeah, I think if you've been going up this line, this long line of tanks, you probably have gone through hell a bit to get to here, and the hell continues. You're luckily though, you're on one. This is the last one before you get the Indian Panzer, so that's something. Anyway, so enough of me yabbering on. Let's get started on the stats. So, 1,250 hit points. That's pretty good. That's like on average. That's like you're in the middle pretty much on that one. Let's have a little look at some of the other medium tanks out there at Tier 7. So the Chinese T-34-1, 960, so we're going to assume it's like 100 hit points into that one. Yeah, I think it's like 100 hit points, so 1,160 perhaps. So you might be better than that one. Yeah, you're probably better than that one. The French don't have anything at Tier 7. That's a medium. Deutschland, obviously you've got your Panther tank. I think you share the same thing, so I'm probably going to be the same amount of hit points. Our lovely British Comet, what is this one? This one is 1,150, so you're better than the Comet by about 100. What about the Yanks T20? 1,000, so that will probably give you 100, maybe 150, I'm not too sure. So either 50 more or on par with the T20, so that's pretty good. The T43, I'm afraid, as I don't have these tanks, I can only guess. Yeah, 1,100 maybe, or 1,200. I'm trying to think of, because I've seen them in combat before, but it's difficult to remember them. We're either going to say it's 1,200 or 1,100. And probably going to be the same for this one, either 1,100 or 1,200. But, so yeah, you're not... So with hit points... Oh yes, if you not forget the Japanese. I always forget these guys. Sorry, Japs. 1,150. That'll probably be 1,100 hit points. So you're on par with the Japanese. And so, yeah, your hit points are actually quite high on that one. You definitely have I mean, of course, it's not like a major advantage, but to be higher than a few other tanks will certainly give you a comforting thought, especially since you're now at Tier 7, where tanks like the Tiger, The IS, don't forget as well. She's got a powerful gun. You've also got T-29s. Also, because you're at Tier 7, the likelihood is you will be going into Tier 8 games, which mean even bigger and nastier tanks. So any kind of hit point advantage is good to have. Going on to weight, you weigh 39.76 tons with 2 bits of equipment attached. This, combined with your 720 horsepower, gives you 18.11 horsepower per ton, or in English, 56 kilometers per hour. Now, that's quite a decent speed. It's faster than the Comet, if I'm not mistaken. So, because that's the big well, in my research, the Comet has been known to be the better of. Yeah, so you're faster than the Comet, but apparently you're slower in sense of horsepower. Okay, probably because you're lighter. I don't know. But still, this thing is quite a maneuverable tank, I've found, especially with the 42 traverse speed. Although, yeah, I found that this tank is quite nice when it comes to turning. I mean, obviously with clutch braking it helps a lot, but this thing is still quite a useful tank when it comes to it. You can there is certainly a usefulness with the speed in that, and plus also when it comes to trying to get from one spot to another, she can get up to that 56 kilometers relatively quickly. That, or you'll be hitting 45 within a few seconds. So most certainly not a slow tank, that's for sure. So moving on to this thing's probable weakness, the armor. Now she has 80 millimeters at the front, 45 to the sides, 50 to the rear. And for the turret, you have 120 to the front, 60 to the sides, and 60 to the rear. Now, I'm going to be doing something for the first time. Well, maybe not the first time, but most certainly, in this case, the first time, is I'm going to be using Tank Inspector to highlight just how thick this armor effectiveness is. Because as you can tell, this tank is sloped. You can see that not much sloping on that side, not much sloping on that side. This actually counts as spaced armor, and there's just a whole variety of things and bobs that most certainly can be looked at in the sense of armor. So I will see you guys on Tank Inspector. So here we are on Tank Inspector, and here's the VK, and I'm just going to go click on the collision model, bang, to show the armor values. As you can see from the front, the frontal 80 millimeters actually gives you 103 millimeters worth of armor, which isn't bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. But most certainly the most armored point of this tank will have to be the front turret, front part of the turret, and the front turret mantlet. I mean, this sector here is absolutely ridiculous with how well armored it is. It can give you a value. Oh, wow, that is cool, actually. Pretty much, this whole frontal turret sector. Looking at this tank, actually, I mean, this gives you like nearly over 300 millimeters worth of frontal hull armor, which, if obviously, most likely, if you get shot there, you will bounce. So, theoretically speaking, not that it's a highly recommended tactic, but technically speaking, what you could do with this tank, given my prior experience, is you could use this as a hull down tank. With this turret, I mean, I will be talking about turrets because this tank is kind of one of those specialist tanks with regards to turrets, but I'll talk to that later on. But yeah, no, this turret with this kind of gun mantlet could be used as a hull down. I mean, it's a much easier tank to shoot through in a hull down position because obviously you've got this massive frontal mantlet around here. If we just take off the collision model, you could just see that this is quite an easy target. Not to mention, of course, you've got the cupola. But if you're a good hull down tanker, like if you've driven stuff like the T-29, the T-34, not the Russian but the American version, if you're a premium tank user, tanks pretty much work a lot better with its turret. You can most certainly use this tank to your advantage in that respect. You can, turn your turret around, spin it, with the hopes that if you are shot, it'll hit there, or it'll hit somewhere which it can increase your armor equivalent to 285. So, your chances for dodging a penetration. I mean, this is a weaker point. Well, that bit on its own is quite weak. But if you're lucky enough and it hits something like that, it'll go straight through and probably ping off. So, most certainly a useful thing. I mean, yeah, that's a ricochet, isn't it? If someone just gets you straight on there, then it has that. So yeah, generally speaking, the best part of this frontal armor is probably this bit here. With this though, yeah, weak points. This most certainly a weak point. Obviously a cupola is always a weak point. As for other values, now under glacius wise, this thing has one, but it's quite a small target. I mean, if you're desperate, this is kind of an underglacial shot. If you have one and you really want to go for it, by all means, but technically speaking, if you're looking at this, then you're a bit of a fool, because then this is available to be shot. So, or if in the cases where you can only see this, like you're pointing a gun upward and someone's being cheeky and you don't want to reveal yourself, then go for it if you can. But if someone's showing you their frontal hull armor, then probably it would be a good idea just to go for this one, because this is probably the weakest part of the armor. Now, I wouldn't say this tank is guaranteed you should only try hulling down, but most certainly if you're in a position, where you can hide your hull armor and use your turret mantlet, I would highly recommend you go for that, because it seems to me, in my limited experience of this tank inspector, that this turret is most certainly designed. I mean, look at that! 561 millimeters. How does that work? That's most certainly. I mean, it's most certainly something which, if you're good enough, can most certainly ricochet stuff off, which is a good idea. Apart from that, everything else pretty much dictates that this thing shouldn't be shot anywhere. This actually acts as spaced armor. If you were curious, these little two sticky outy bits. This one acting as 30 millimeters, this one acting as 20, this one acting as 20 as well. So if you are being shot, then this thing possibly can stop a shell, but probably won't. So you could take damage on it if someone was like there and aimed there, possibly could pass through, possibly could do some damage. Obviously, you've got your hull armor, which you shouldn't show, and your top half armor, only 20 millimeters thick. So if artillery does get you, you will be buggered, quite nastily as well. Obviously, you've got your rear part as well. Ironically enough, your rear is actually better armored than your sides, which is, in my opinion, never a good thing. But yeah, turrets-wise, pretty much a standard sort of design of turret. Yeah, pretty much. It's just a standard 60 millimeters. So if you can, tactics to recommend for this turret, most certainly try and use hull down, or longer distance engagements, because further on in the review you will see why. But anyway, so yeah, that's it for this this tank inspector thing. I will see you back in the garage. Now, on to the special thing about this tank. And it's not really that special, but it's something which you can bear in mind when upon grinding through this thing. Your turret. Now, this turret, as you can see, is the upgraded top-tiering monstrosity known as the Panzer VK3002DB Schmalzturm. Not really sure what that means, but probably means big-ass turret. So this thing is the upgraded one. We saw how well armored it is, what kind of tactics I would recommend for it. But this isn't the only thing you can use with this turret. Tank. You can also use the stock turret as well, if you should so choose. Now, the reason why I say this is because this turret has obviously the advantages of extra health, more ammunition, better view range, and better armor, but it does, however, lack in one big department. And if you're a medium tank driver who has driven stuff like the Comet, Cromwell, tanks with a fast turret traverse speed, this thing lacks in one major department: turret traverse. You know, this thing here is very slow. However, its stock counterpart, this one, has 32 turret traverse speed. Now, there is like another tiny advantage to this thing as well, which is the fact that this turret is a smaller target. As you can see, in comparison to its bigger tier 8 counterpart, it's, you know, it's smaller by about, you know, probably 40, maybe even 50%, maybe 40%. You know, so obviously shots may miss more with you, and also because your turret traverse speed is 32, this gives you the ample opportunity, if you're one of those kind of medium tank drivers, to flank and get rear shots to someone without them being able to react. Now, with me, I am not I'm not a great medium tank driver. Not really. I mean, it takes me a long while to get into being a decent medium tanker, and by that point, I've already grinded through the damn thing, and I'm back to heavies again. So I'm not really a great medium tank player. But if you are an experienced medium tank driver, I would state that this thing, while it does suffer in ammunition, view range, armor, and hit points, you most certainly can use this to your advantage. It's not a perfect advantage, mind, but it's something. So, you know, it seems a little pointless me mentioning it, but I thought as it can be used, and I did use it for a very long time. In fact, it wasn't until halfway through this grind I decided to try and see whether I wanted to go with the VK Schmalterm. And I found that that turret, you know, despite lacking a fast traverse speed for those out there who don't really like the concept of sticking with the stock, it works pretty well for me. I found it, you know, I've found it can turn fast enough for what I want to do. I mean, obviously, as I say in a fair amount of videos, everyone has their own tactics and style, but for those who have an interest in this turret, it works pretty well. The ammunition is nice to have. The armor is obviously a great. The traverse doesn't have any falters. You know, armor, it's great. View range, it's fantastic. You know, in my opinion, I prefer this, but like I said, you can use that if you really want to. Going on down to view range, you have 380. That's pretty good, actually. For a Tier 7 medium tank, that's pretty good. But let's have a little comparison with your Tier 7 counterparts. So go up to here, go to T34-1, see how much his upgraded turret has. He has 370, so you're 10 better than him. The French don't have it. You're the same. Actually, no, let's have a little look-see. Just humouring myself. Let's have a little look-see. Yeah, it has the same. It's the same turret, so I shouldn't really be surprised. The British, with their lovely Comet. I have fully upgraded my Comet, so she has 380. So she has the same view range. If we want to go into the in-depth, so let's get that one. Yes, she has the same upgradable view range as that one, as the VK, so nice. What about the American T20? Let's have a little look-see. He has, 390. So he is the dominant force at the moment in regards to view range. Oh dear. What about your Tier 7 Russian counterparts? Ooh, that's a tier higher. The T43 has 370. So not so good for Russia. What about the A44? 370. So the Russians unfortunately suck on this one. Actually, they're kind of low. They're in third place region. What about the Chiri? With its upgraded turret, it only has 370. So for view range, you're only just like second place, which is very good. I mean, that is certainly helpful. It could mean that you could scout if you're desperate. You know, that is most certainly a decent view range for a medium tank, and will certainly, if you're in a platoon, will help you out a lot. Going on to signal range, see that? That, my friends, is our good old friend, the VK12. I love you! Yes, my friend, my dearest of friends, the VK12 makes a comeback and puts its mark on the German tech tree once again. All of these tanks you will benefit in having, and I would highly recommend anyone who hasn't watched my videos before or hasn't quite gotten the message to please, dear God, if you're in Germany and you're at if you're at either a Panzer, if you're at the Panzer 3, get it. If you're at, I don't think you can get it at the Panzer 38 NA. You can get the VK8, but if you're at the Panzer 4, get it. If you're at any tanks at the lower tiers that has access to buying a VK12, buy it. You will not regret it. Why? Because literally every tank, in fact up to tier 9, will use a FUG-12. The E75 uses the FUG-12. I think the E50 uses a FUG-12. Even tanks like the Jagdtiger uses a FUG-12. So just buying that one radio can solve crap ton tanks of your tank's problems, and all you'll have to do when you get the tank is just buy the radio. And as radio is quite important, it's very nice to know that you will have that in your supplies and you won't have to worry about researching radios ever again. Yay! But let's have a little look at your counterparts to see if they are better or worse. So, the Chinese, what do they have? Ah. Me singing the praises and it's already been beaten. Yes, the Chinese have 750, so bollocks. Okay, so the Chinese are better than you. Well, you know, okay, fair enough. Panther tank already has. What about the British and the lovely Comet? What do they have? They have a tier 8 radio, which gives them 700 signal range, so only 15 minus than you. So, you know, the British are a close second. What about, or third in a sense then. What about the Yanks, the T-20? Oh, he has a tier 9 radio. What is it? It is 615. So the Yanks are quite far behind, being 100 millimeters behind. Such a difference. No, 100 meters behind in the sense of in signal range. So, you know, they may be on the top when it comes to view range, but they can't signal worth a damn. What about our Russian counterparts? Ah, now Russia's never been good for radios. Oh, tier 8. Oh, tier 525 meters. I feel sorry for you. And I'm going to assume the T-43 has the same. Yeah. Oh, yeah, same. Oh, I forgot one. KV-13. I completely forgot you. What's your view range? Just so we can confirm. 360, even worse. And, now the KV-13 has a tier 6 radio, tier 9 radio, but it only has 625 view range. So it's actually better. It's actually better than those two combined. That is quite an embarrassment, isn't it? But not bad. Not a bad attempt by Russia. And finally, what about the Japanese? The Japanese, they get a tier 10 radio. Ah, shit. So the Chinese and the Japanese, while the Chinese and Japanese aren't so great in view range, they actually kick ass, take names, and chew some bubblegum with radio range. Luckily, though, that doesn't conform into the sense of shells. If it was, we'd be all dead by now. Now, on to what would be my favourite asset of this video, but unfortunately it's not for this tank. The gun. You have 4 guns to choose from, 3 of which are lower tiered than this vehicle. One of which, if you've already used the Tiger, you'll know what I'm talking about. In fact, if you've already used it on the VK, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'll show you, if you haven't. Now, you inherit, we'll go on this one first. From this tank, you'll inherit the L48 from the Panzer 3-4, and if you are completely batshit crazy mad, you won't have, you won't have researched that gun. Reasons why? Bang. Yes. Yes, that is an L48 as a stock gun if you haven't researched it on the VK. Now, luckily, I've already researched this gun because I've gone through other tanks. But, yeah. Yes. Yes, exactly. The L70 and a derp gun. Okay, I'm just going to say it out loud. Anyone who uses this gun on this tank is a very stupid person. Very stupid. You're going to be going into a tier... Now, look, I know derp guns with high explosives can still cause damage, blah, 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 and maybe they can be useful, but on a medium tank, you don't really need a derp gun. Admittedly, the gun selection for this is absolutely crap, but I would maintain one thing and one thing only. Not the L56, though. Because the L56, despite being at tier 7, has probably the worst penetration for tier 7 tanks, being only 132. Now, if you were driving something like, I don't know, the Tiger, and you had the L56, you have this when you first start out, when you have that turret, and that's a shame. That is terrible to look at. But, you know, you get the old Buddy 70 on this thing. But, that's the first 88 you get. In fact, you inherit that from the VK. So when you finally upgrade your turret and get that, you can upgrade and move away from that in this thing. But not in this thing. You have this as your top gun, of which I wouldn't recommend you go for it. I mean, I know it's 88mm, so if we have a little look here, it's 88mm. It's got about roughly, 10 rounds a minute. It has 132 pen. Yes, it's got 220 damage. Its accuracy is alright, but it has a terrible 2.3 second aiming time. Now, while you can perhaps use this at a tier 7, maybe, if you're lucky, a tier 8 match, you will also be going into tier 9 matches, because matchmaking is still screwed up, of which then you are buggered, because most of the tanks out there you probably won't be able to pen. One gun, however, I would highly recommend you use, and pretty much stick with it throughout the entire grind, which will be very painful, very annoying. I do agree with you. This tank was probably one of the worst tanks I've had to grind thus far. Well, maybe apart from the Comet, but still. This gun, the L70, is your only saving grace. 75, 15 rounds a minute, 150 pen, 135 damage on average, and 0.35 accuracy. The only downside is it also has the 2.3 second aiming time. But I'm sure an experienced crew and most certainly a few equipment may help you solve that. This is your only saving grace, and I can't reiterate that enough because you cannot use anything else. You know, I've seen VKs with the L56, and I feel sorry for them because they're going to struggle way harder simply because they haven't got enough penetration. Whereas with this, if you do bump into a tier 9, you at least have the satisfaction that if you have to use premium shells, you have much better pen with premium shells. You know, the 194 if you are curious. So, yeah. Not really great for armor, which is a real shame, because apart from that, this tank isn't that bad. But, yeah, I suppose, I mean, obviously medium tanks aren't meant to be the ones with the biggest guns on the field, but at least with stuff like, the Panther, at least it gives, I mean, okay, at least with the Panther, it gives you, despite it looking absolutely ridiculous, a gun which can penetrate 198mm and, if necessary, 244 premium, and is very accurate. Whereas with this, however, no such chance. So, yeah, not a good aspect about this tank, I can tell you. So, let's now go on to equipment and crew skills that I would recommend. First of all, equipment. Naturally, medium caliber gun rammer and ventilations for the first two. The third, as always, is up to you. But here are my recommendations. Not number one recommendation. First of all, enhanced gun laying drive most certainly would be a good idea, considering the fact that you have a nasty 2.3 second aiming time. This thing, having that will help will basically make your tank, your firing a lot nicer and less stressful. Otherwise, binocular telescope, I mean, this thing has a decent enough view range already, but stuff like maybe coated optics, I wouldn't say it's a bad idea, but considering the fact that this thing isn't really designed for slugging unless you are somewhat suicidal, longer ranged engagements do seem to favour this thing. I found long distance shooting can help you a lot when it comes with this thing, if you're going to try and apply that tactic. So maybe binocular telescope would be a second recommendation. Let's have a look-see. No point in camouflage. Don't bother with that, because, well, if you are having difficulty with it, you can be ammo-racked in this thing, unfortunately. But you can also get a skill, of which I will talk to you later in a few seconds about that. Spore liner, probably not a bad idea if you are the kind of person who likes to be ramming artillery to death, or if you are suffering from artillery problems, you know, that sort of thing. Apart from that, nothing else really is that useful. So yes, number 1 recommendations. Enhanced gun laying drive. Second recommendations, binocular telescope. Third recommendations, medium spore liner. But priority is that. For your crew, your commander. Now I opted for some reason to go with mentor, but what I would recommend instead is probably something like repairs. Once that hits to 100%, swap that out for 6 cents, because if you know that you're spotted is very nice to then be shot at, then know you've been spotted. After which, go back to repairs, and then once it goes to 100% again, go for something like Eagle Eye. This basically allows your commander to identify the critically damaged modules on any targeted vehicle. That is very useful. Especially considering the fact that if you want to help your team out, you can at least point out to your platoon mates saying, "Hey, that guy's buggered up his gun," so you can at least, engage them rather than take a guess and fail miserably. For your gunner, naturally, snapshot would be a good idea, because then to be able to improve the accuracy during a turret rotation means that you can lower the amount of time it takes for you to aim on target. If you're also flanking as well, another good thing, and it's a skill, so why not? Once that hits 100%, go to repairs, and then swap that out for something like Deadeye. Or once that hits 100% and you give it enough time, swap it out for Deadeye, then train that skill up again, because that's not a bad idea. Once you've done that, either swap that out or repairs out for something like Designated Target. This basically makes the enemy vehicle visible for an extra 2 seconds, which can either help you or your team out significantly. Naturally, for your driver, you want to give him clutch braking, because any kind of increased rotation speed is valuable to this vehicle. After which, you probably want to have off-road driving, or smooth ride, considering. Don't forget though, you can swap any of these skills out once they hit 100% and get preventative maintenance as well. That's something which you'll have to think about at some point. So I wouldn't recommend doing it after 100%ing clutch braking. So what I would recommend personally is go for something like repairs, a simple cheapo skill, which once it hits 100, swap it out for a preventative maintenance, then go on for something like off-road driving or smooth ride. However, if you're more determined to move faster, then certainly smooth ride and off-road driving wouldn't be a bad idea. Probably controlled impact if you like ramming shit, but don't forget this thing is relatively light if you compare it to other tanks, so probably not the greatest of ideas. For your radio operator, repairs till 100%, then probably after you hit that, put out situational awareness. This basically increases your view range. While your view range is very good, any kind of improvements to your view range is always appreciated. Maybe call for vengeance if you want to swap something out with this guy, but really I would say this is the weaker link of your skills, so yeah. I mean, signal boosting if you're desperate, but, I can't really recommend anything else on this one. And finally, your loader. Train him up to 100% with skills and perks, then as soon as he hits 100%, swap that out. Actually, no, but once he hits 100%, and this applies all to your crew, try and pick another skill, perk, or skill thing, and train it for a while, because what will happen is if you swap it, you'll take a loss in percentage because you dropped the skill. So what you want to do is pick another skill, and when you're like at something like 25 to 30%, then drop that skill, which then should automatically give you a skill or a perk to be used automatically, rather than having to train up that perk 1%. That must be it can happen, and unfortunately it can be very frustrating. So just keep an eye out for that. But once you have got it, once you have the 100% on another silly common skill, grab safe stowage, because that is very important. And then once your repair skill is back up to 100%, swap that out, you get another perk, then swap that out, and get Adrenaline Rush. This basically accelerates the gun loading of the vehicle if it has less than 10% hit points on it. So that'll most certainly help you if in case the shit starts to hit the fan. So, with that all said, let's actually get into the field of battle. See you on the field, guys. And we're back. And we're actually in good tiering, so hopefully we can take advantage of this. Well, hopefully. Touch wood. To be honest with you, it doesn't matter if I donk. Well, it does kind of matter if I donk, but I'm going to just try and show you the best I can with what I got. Preferably, I like to be in platoons now because it's a lot... I wouldn't say it's a lot easier, but most certainly can be more enjoyable than playing on your own. I think if my number one recommendation for pretty much any tank, if you're going to grind it with friends, because the grind becomes a lot less frustrating, and also you can use the weak points of one tank to the advantages of another, because if your mate's going through another tank which actually is better than yours in another area, he can actually, yeah, like I said, just make it a little easier for you to grind. But anyway, so on with the battle. So we are facing off against a tier 7 team. This is actually one of the first few times. Oh yes, just to let you know, I've just installed the gun sound mod. So this game may lag at certain points with certain sounds, but as I've received a certain tank, well, I've got a certain tank recently, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna have to play the gun sound mod with. Okay, on my fin. No problem, I was a twat. Not angling well. Right, he's fired. Aim, 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 aim. Shoots it. Back, 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 back. He's going to get the kill. Yep, got him. Get him. Good job, good job. Aim forward again. No, no shot. Let's turn to our left. Oh, there's the IS. Turn, 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 turn. Right, do we have artillery? Yes, we do. Right, he's just fired. Try and track him. Nope, too late. Okay, our KV-1 is going to try and push into this position. We have taken out three of their tanks, one of which was artillery. Fan-bloody-tastic. Unfortunately, we just lost our ELC in the process, but we did our work job, which was knocking out one of their artillery. Crippling artillery is probably the best thing you can do in a game which has artillery. Right, I'm going to be kind of a little bit more bold than usual on this one. So yeah, any of you guys out there with the stock turret would probably find this a little bit... Oh, shit. Right, there he is. Now, I am making myself a target just as he is making him... As I'm making him a target, but if I can just keep him lit up, it allows my team to move up with confidence that they're not going to be shot by the IS at any point. I do have the opportunity to track him, and he's going to come along without even realizing it. Oh, no, he knows. Backing off. Oh, I've taken a hit. But he's just fired, so that means I can now move up safely and try and take a pop shot. I can. Now the KV-1 is behind him. Is he going to be paying attention to him? Yes, he is, so let's swamp him. Always go for a turret shot if you can, because you can always bugger up the commander. Oh, he turned his turret. Turning, turning, turning. Ricochet, unfortunately, didn't do anything, but I got the kill. Yeah! Got the kill. Actually, now let's take cover now, because I don't need much to kill me. Yes, if you're on the attacking side... Ooh, I just ricocheted. Right. I somehow ricocheted that. I think I just took it on the side, so... Whatever's happening has luckily avoided us. Actually, this isn't a bad line. Yeah, going up towards this position isn't such a bad idea, but most certainly try and support your teammates if you can. Chinu having a very good fighting retreat. Our EZ-8 is most certainly assisting us. We do need to knock out that M12 though, because he is quite a big threat. We've just lost our SU-152, so we've lost our biggest gun now. We do have artillery, and they are starting to pounce on the base, which is not good, so we need to start capping and doing stuff very quickly. I think bigger threat is probably the SU, the KV-1S, as it's a heavy tank. I can certainly do something about that guy. So as you can see, the hull armor actually is helping me out quite a bit here. Right, intimidated him, taking another ricochet, taking a lovely shot into this guy. I only need to have like 2 more shots. He's already taken damage. He's already taken shots, move in to take the kill if I can. No, there is the SU-122-44, high type priority threat. Ricocheted. Don't get behind me, KV-1S, you pleb. Right, we have now just lost our front. Cap as fast as humanly possible. I will try and... I'll try and hold them without obviously being shot. Okay, so the pressure is somewhat lessened now thanks to the fact that we have no longer got... To be honest with you, they're going to be quite a... that thing's quite a threat. So I'll have to concentrate fire on it a bit, because we could quite easily cap. There is the M12. We have to knock him out. Taking damage. We are taking damage, but we need to knock him out. Okay, he's taken out now. Let's move and take out the M12, the SU-122-44, and nearly, I almost get him, but we capped, and the game is ours. Noobs. Yes, we're so newbie. We won the game. Oh, that was a good game. So, yeah, oh, wow, that was a lot. Oh, yeah, there's an event on. Yeah, of course. So, yeah, with the top turret, you can do a pretty decent average, pretty decent game on it. Kudos to the SU-122-44. I think if he was nearby the left side of the town, oh, the game would have been so much different. Most certainly would have been potentially a higher loss than it. But the artillery at the same time on our side did a good job in knocking out that Tiger. But yeah, so this thing, you can do well in it. Let's get into another match, shall we? And we're back. And once again, we're in very good tiering. I really need to get my specific tank out once after this review, because it's I'm going to need to grind it. I'm looking forward to grinding it, actually. But anyway, so, once again, in good tiering. We may not win this one, but considering... We may not win this one, but touch wood we will. I mean, try not to have a negative attitude, I suppose, but this is World of Tanks, after all. I'm going to go into the town, because as much as going over to the open area of here would be a good idea, I personally prefer to fight in towns. I've always been a bit of a townie myself, so it makes sense to fight in a town. We aren't really doing much in the sense of defending the right flank, but we do have tank destroyers watching that line. So in a sense, we can, if we're quick enough, punch a hole straight through the town and get to their base. Now, as I'm going to be first... Oh shit, don't go along this line. Don't go along this line. Right. Remember the first score. Remember this for a certain fact. Never go down this line. Never. Unless you're willing to part with your tank, or unless you have very good frontal armor, because otherwise there is a good possibility that some quick tank destroyer or someone may reach that point and start raining shell. Oh, of course, everyone's sort of saying, everyone go to this point, and if you don't, we've lost. Well, it's not entirely lost. You can still... Oh, there's a Panzer. Panzer, using a derp gun. Hello! Nice 2 shots into him. And a heavy tank is going to try and take his place. I need to get at least 1 shot into this guy before I back off. Nope, he's coming back. And he's gone. And I'm going to need to back off. Ah, shit! Right, we've lost... Oh, they're camping. Oh, they are as well, for God's sake. Right, okay, we're going to have to pull back now. Unfortunately, this team isn't as good as I hoped it would be. They have completely decided to spend most of this game camping, which means that there is a highlight... Ooh, hello. Ram him. So this is probably where having a faster turret traverse would actually help out a little bit. Bang! Oh, a lucky ricochet. Right, I finally got something. I've taken lots of my health, unfortunately. But we've taken 3 of theirs and we've lost 3 of ours. Hopefully I can get the hell out of dodge before I get a bullet. Frick off, tank. No, come on, bastard. Right, I'm going to have to sort of very, very poorly get out the way. And no one's guarding the base, so anyone could quite happily walk up. I might as well resign myself to defending the base. Really not a good idea for our top-tiering tanks to be camping here. Really not a good idea. This is, I'm just going to reiterate, I'm just going to state this now. An IS never should camp. Never in a million years should find a position further away from the enemy and then shoot at him. That's what tank destroyers are for. That's what tanks with better, more accurate guns are for. Not ISs. This kind of gun can camp because that's what it's meant to do. Not an IS. We're losing our SU-152, so we're going to have to be extra careful. Okay, so we're going to have to start pulling back now. This is kind of going to look like, this is probably going to be a nasty defeat. Artillery, fall back. Oh, there's their SU-152. He's donked his shot, which is important because now artillery. Oh, wow. Well done, numbnuts. Well, really, I should say that now, shouldn't I? Now, sod it. This is an amateur one. Well done, numbnuts. You probably could have cost us the game, in fact. You never know. So, every tank is needed. Right, I'm being targeted now. Yeah, this game is turning into an absolute freaking nightmare. So, unfortunately, yeah, this game's up for us. We've completely lost this one. It's a shame. And that's how to make yourself an asshole. He's just feeling upset because his wing is a little smaller than everyone else's and he's died. I would type in the comments, I would type in the chat telling him to go shove his very big gun up his very fine arse. But unfortunately, right, I'm going to have to try and duke it out with this guy. I mean, we're going to die relatively soon, so we might as well go out in a blaze of glory. And I'm dead. Unfortunately, okay, I'll leave this. Well, I'm just going to type in something else. I'll see you in the game. So, unfortunately, I guess it's going to be a case of 1 victory and 1 defeat. No thanks to the scumbag piece of crap artillery player that we had on our team. But luckily, he died before most of the rest of our team. So, anyway, that's about it for this review. Actually, no, for the summary. I almost forgot about that. So, the VK3002 Aston Martin. Certainly a difficult grind with respect to the fact that you've got a very poor selection of guns, but if you master this thing and, you know, learn its strengths and weaknesses and try and combine it into a platoon of something, most certainly you can do well in this. I mean, obviously, we've only had Tier 7 games in this, but you can actually do relatively well in Tier 8s. Yes, you may have to focus more on finding the flanks of your opposing vehicles and probably not going maybe not going charging in first, but most certainly going to be a deciding fact. You can certainly be a deciding factor in whether a game can be won or lost. But yeah, so I would say this thing is kind of worth going through if you are going through towards getting the Indian Panzer, like I am. Most certainly would recommend getting it because it is. Get it because you need it, and also because you can train your crew as well whilst getting into into the Indian Panzer. But anyway, that's about it for this review, so thank you very much for watching. If you like this kind of content, feel free to let me know by typing in the comment section down below, clicking on the like button, and of course subscribing to the channel. If you have any feedback about how my performance was, like if you're a commentator yourself and I rambled on too much about one thing, or I didn't give too much detail and attention to another, feel free to let me know. All I ask is that there isn't any trolling, because then that comment will be deleted and nobody will be any of the wiser. So yeah, that's about it on that one. But thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will catch you next time. This is Crap Hunter signing out.